This edition of SBTV How To, we're going to talk about setting the ignition points and timing on our Project 74 CB750K engine. We still got it on the bench, so I want to go ahead and get that done before I put it in the bike. It's just a lot easier to do it when the engine's a little higher up. I'm getting a little long in the tooth, and bending over that far is a little harder than it used to be. And what we need to do is make sure that the gap is set so that the coil has sufficient saturation time to build up a nice big pot of energy to release to the spark plugs, and that they are set to open at the right time in order to fire that spark plug just when it's supposed to. So that's the topic for today's edition of SBTV. Let's get to it. Okay, now before we install this, go ahead and take a time to clean the contact breaker surfaces. Maybe a little packing oil or something on there. We don't want that on there. Some spray contact cleaner and then a clean business card works real well to just swipe that clean. We've already taken care of that on this, not necessary to do that now. The other thing we want to do is apply a little oil to this wick. And the reason we're going to put some oil here on this wick is this is what's going to lubricate or apply a thin film of lubrication to the barrel that we talked about earlier. So as that rotates against these contact breakers here, so I can get how close I can get in right here at the base where the points are actually riding on that circle, that they don't wear out prematurely. That was one of the disadvantages to the mechanical breaker points. They didn't last long, so you're doing this every 10, 15,000 miles tops. All right, now I had the spark advance in place primarily so that I could get this big nut to be able to turn the engine through while I was working on reassembly. So we're going to take that off for now. Make sure, and I guess we should show you here. This is indexed to the crank. There's a pin. You can see that pin here that goes into this hole in the crank to index it to the crankshaft. And then we're going to install the breaker points with these condensers located at the base. We may have to spread the breakers a little bit so we can get them into place. Reinstall the breaker plate screws. See if we can do that without dropping anything. And I'm not going to tighten these. It's just going to be lightly seated because I am going to have to turn this plate in order to set the initial timing. Okay, with the contact breaker plate installed, the first thing I want to do is adjust the gap on the points. These are the points for cylinder 1 and 4. And then these are the points for cylinders 2 and 3. Now notice that cylinder 2 and 3 is on its own little plate here, so that it can be adjusted independently of the main breaker plate, which is going to be used to set the timing for 1 and 4. Now the first thing we want to do, and again I have the points, the plugs out of this engine so it's easier to turn around. We got our feeler gauges, just like we talked about in past videos. Feeler gauge is just that. It's a feel that you have to develop, and it's very easy because the springs on the points are very light, so it's not a lot of difference if I force either gauge into place of what kind of feel I'm going to get. So I'd like a go no go adjustment. The specification for the points is the gap has to be between 12 thousandths and 16 thousandths of an inch, so that's what I've got here on my feeler gauges. See if I can show those. Try that one out of focus. And they're a 12 thousandths and a 16 thousandths. So I'm going to adjust them so the 12 fits and the 16 won't when I go to check it. First I got to do is get this points set to where they're at its maximum gap. And I'm just going to do this by rotating and watching the gap. See, it's increasing slightly, and now it's going to start to close. And we're going to watch it again. See it start to move again. And that looks about max gap. So I'm going to see what that gap is right now. Now these are brand new store-bought. They may be pretty close to begin with. So there's the 12. And there's the 16. That's not going to go. See if I can show that on a good angle. That's not going to go. And the 12, I don't know. That's a little tight. I don't know. Let's rotate it one more time. We're going to watch them very closely. They got to get it first at the max. All right, try one more time. Take the 12. Okay, yeah, the 12 fits in there very nice. It just slides right in. And then the 16, not going unless I force it in. So that's okay. Now we're going to do the same thing on this side. We're going to watch the gap. There it's open. That's about the max. And I'm going to do the same thing. Take the 12. Fits right in there. 16. Also fits right in there. So that's a little big. So to adjust that, you see there's 3 screws. These 2 are going to adjust the plate. This one's going to adjust the gap. I'm just going to loosen that up just slightly. And then I'm going to use a screwdriver in these adjustment points to close that up just a little bit. Check it. Again, 16 fell in before. I don't want that to fall in. It's not falling in now. And there goes the 12 right in. Good. So now I can secure that screw. I think I'm going to use the Phillips on that to get a little better fight without screwing it up. Snug that down. And then we'll just double check one more time. 12. A little bit of drag on the 12. 16's not going in. Okay, now the gap's set. Did you enjoy the video you just watched? Did you find it helpful? We sure hope so. If you did, make sure you give us a thumbs up and you add your comments to that section right below the player there. And don't forget to share our videos with your Harley riding friends. Once you got all that taken care of, if you want to make sure that you're the first to know about any new videos that we put up online, hit that subscribe button for us. Thanks for watching.